Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, Nathan.
Yay. Welcome once more to Reckless Attack, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast. I am your GM, Nathan, and I am joined, as always, by the excellent players here at Reckless Attack. Hello, excellent players, once more.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, most excellent GM.
So, brings you here. What do you guys want to do?
I personally came here tonight because I was under the impression that we were going to be playing a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast.
I came here because I live here.
I too live here.
That explains
Okay.
how you guys are always here before me.
And I've been waiting a whole week to play Checkers, the Grung Druid, and his trusty frog pals, Mango and Junior. And I cannot wait for tonight's session of Dungeons & Dragons.
I thought you were just going to end with checkers.
Checkers. It's me, Checkers.
And we're not playing
Yeah.
a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast, but instead the board game checkers.
Yeah, right.
It's a real hard
Between
pivot.
5 people, it's going to get weird.
Wow, a true professional. I know, right? I'm like, no, I live here. I don't have a choice. Like, I'm just going to be here.
My husband was like, hey, we're going to buy a house, and said house needs to have a room that I can use for podcasting and do whatever I want with it. And I was like, okay, I love you. I guess it's fine.
I walked in here during like the initial inspection, and I was like, all right, how big of a table can I fit in this podcast room?
How many people can I cram in here?
Yeah.
And how much sound foam can I also
That's
cram?
the dedication, Nathan.
Yeah.
That's the dedication to the craft.
You're not telling me anything I don't know, David. You're telling the listeners the level of commitment that you have.
Did I buy a house to make a podcast? Probably, yes. Let's be real here.
Well, purveyor of fine financial decisions.
Yeah, right.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm David, and I play Casker and Brightmane, the Dwarven Warlock, who is perhaps more financially savvy than I am, the human. And across the table from me,
Hi, I'm Sophie, and I play Valeska Carter, the human asterisk cleric of the Arcana domain. And I'm the other half of these financial decisions.
we...
But I also decorate and use all the rest of the house, so David gets to stay in his weird podcast room.
Noise.
Well, and you know what, Sophie? You're fucking in here too. You're in the, you can dodge it, you can avoid it for as long as you want, but at the end of the day, whose ass is in here recording a dumb podcast? It's also Sophie.
It is me,
Right.
too.
You're trapped in
Yeah.
here with us, all right?
And then every time I give a home tour, people are like, oh, is this a bedroom? I'm like, no, this is the podcast room.
That's called guerrilla marketing. That's what that is.
I just need to put like a poster on our door. David, why haven't we done this? Of like,
that's a good question,
this is Reckless Attack, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast recording studio.
And you need one of those like signs that has like the live,
Oh,
the
yeah.
go live thing.
Yeah.
But also a QR code. We're just like, if you're walking past, you better download the podcast.
That's a QR code that automatically opens Spotify and downloads the first episode.
Yeah.
Get those sweet, sweet clicks.
And across the table from me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve, and I am playing Self Asterlin, the Dragonborn monk. And you're all talking about that podcast door and all the things that are going to be on there. And I just keep thinking of in Cheyenne Mountain, they have the door that is to Stargate, to the Stargate, like, because that's, where it was supposed to be held. So the actual Cheyenne Mountain, if you take the tour, there is a door in there somewhere that just has Stargate, on the.
Really?
on
Just
it,
like
yeah.
out there?
Yeah, they just did that. I don't know if the door actually opens into anything or if they just propped a door up against the mountain wall and just called it, Stargate Command.
Well, now we need to just make a portal like our podcast cover and then just put it somewhere in the city of Chicago with a QR code. Well, hey, guys, let's play some 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons for this podcast. We are, once again, in the red city of Agmar. It is a bustling city. It is filled with activity and with people going about their lives. It is a pretty happy late summer, maybe early fall day, and Golden Tree Guilders have finally returned. And now they're kind of just, I won't say killing time, that's a little reductive, but they're killing time as they hear whether they can get the coveted 5 books from the restricted section that they need to exchange Lorana Moonglove, the powerful sorceress, to help permanently fix the members of the Bones who have become untethered. But as of right now, they do not have that permission, they do not have that information yet. And so we open on this beautiful day, this lovely morning, and across this busy street where people are milling around, there are houses, there are food stalls, there are neighbors chatting, there are people haggling, and all the hustle and bustle of city and all the kind of glorious color and diversity that this city has. And up on the roofs, you see 2 figures running. Tell me, what does this omniscient gaze see?
So anybody on the street level, if they happen to look up at the right time, might see what looks like a tall dragonborn running across the rooftops and leaping the 5-foot gap between buildings as they're running along. And occasionally you would see the dragonborn in front, maybe making that leap first. And then maybe over the next couple of buildings, a squat frog with 2 other frogs on top of it leaps across first ahead of the dragonborn over the next gap.
So this is a competition between Selv, Checkers, and Mango.
Got it. Okay, important clarifier.
And all 3 of them are kind of racing along these rooftops, trying to make it across the city to the finish line of the Golden Tree Adventuring Guild. And people throughout the city can also just hear Checkers go, Selv, wait up! And there's a lot of what is it?
Flap, flap,
Yeah.
flap, flap.
Well, I imagine too, Selv is straight up parkouring across everything, graceful, efficient, perfect movement. And Checkers is not that. Yeah, Checkers is not that. He's got 2 fistfuls of tomatoes, just hurling them at Selv, trying to throw him off his tempo while he's jumping around.
And I'm picturing that there's not a whole lot of sound coming from Selv, except for maybe the as he's running along. And Selv is kind of trying to maintain focus and trying to take the most efficient route that gets him back in a circle and back to the ground. And I'm also picturing Checkers also taking the most efficient route, but not necessarily adhering to the spirit of the competition.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Checkers is definitely not taking the most efficient route. Checkers is taking the route that Selv can't see, because as soon as Selv turns his head, Checkers is gonna go he's gonna cheat basically. He's gonna just cut a straight line through the circle and just hope that you don't notice. Mango is following behind you pretty well, but Checkers every so often just pops out of view and then hurls a tomato at you.
and then just shows up a rooftop ahead of me.
Yeah.
It just climbs up the side or something.
Jonathan, I'm going to ask you
Yes.
the very important question, and you don't look at anyone else at the table.
Uh-huh.
This is you and me.
Sure.
Who wins the race?
I want to say that Checkers is so busy trying to pelt Selv with tomatoes, and Selv is so busy trying to run and dodge that Mango wins.
It's a real slow and steady wins the race kind of situation.
Right, exactly. No one's messing with Mango, so Mango just crosses the finish line way before the 2 of us do.
You're actively wrestling Selv in the last 15 feet.
I'm clinging onto his back, just trying to get in front of him while he's running. If I pass first, I win, right?
Right, just wearing reverse backpack.
Right.
And then I imagine us both kind of look up and we see Mango's tongue touching the post.
Yes.
And we're
I also like to imagine that there is, and I can't decide which I like better. Is it Berga? Is it Tarath? Is it a random child on the street that is just there and is silently makes a tally of who,
I was
who wins?
100% on the same page. And so when you guys left, Berga got involved, and Berga, your guild master, said that she would be the timekeeper, basically. And by the time you guys get back, Berga is no longer there. And instead, sitting at the top of the post that has your guys' golden leaf insignia on it is Taroth, the imp, who is holding like a hourglass, and the sand is kind of like trickling down, and he is like holding onto it and kind of like protecting it, kind of like holding it like he is Gollum and it is his precious. And as soon as the tongue hits, he just, time! Do you know how to read this? So Checkers and Mango and Selv return after their race, and they open the door, and, this is still kind of early enough in the morning that everyone is still kind of around. Maybe they finished breakfast, maybe they're reading a book, maybe they're doing whatever. As Taroth kind of swings in behind you guys, Berga starts yelling at him, is like, did you do it? Yes, I gave you one job. And you guys see that Berga and Val are sitting at, like a breakfast nook, basically, going over a sizable parchment of things. And as soon as Taroth kind of just like cackles and just like hucks the timekeeper just like onto the ground with no notions of safety and just scampers off into God knows what cranny of this guild hall, she leans over and grabs it, and Berga turns back to Val and is like, oh, sorry. Just checking in to make sure that I got all of the things that you were looking for me to do while you guys were gone.
Yes. We've gone over the adjacent buildings to the guild hall because, Selv and Cass weren't even here, but their community self-defense classes have really grown. Like, you've been doing some great marketing with that, Berga. I really appreciate it. But we're going to need more space if we're going to continue our slew of community programming on the books. And you said that I've got to check in with Andromeda for questions we had about the vault door.
Berga is like going through this list with you and is like checking off. Oh, yes. And then, I thought for the vault door. I know Garnak is already there, so you might be able to ask him that. And I am going to just step out of the fiction and tell the dear listeners that once again, Sophie has accumulated an actual physical to-do list.
Yes.
Not necessarily of a marching orders for Berga, but of like, these are priority projects for Val, for the Golden Tree, and kind of for Berga as administrator of said wills. But what did she get done off of your actual physical real life to-do list?
She has been overseeing the construction of Colaprico's chicken coop, as it's kind of weird because we can't go to the person who probably has all the connections to building a chicken coop because Gary Carr, the chicken czar, doesn't know about Colaprico.
No. But she'd been like,
can't know about it.
Can't know about
No. So she's like, oh yeah. So I did ask Gary Carr, the chicken czar, very delicately. I talked to him and I got connections that. Then I got other connections, so several connections removed, from him. So we have some quotes. It's here in this spreadsheet, and we can go over them whenever we have time.
I would like to propose Colaprico.
And yes, per Selv's suggestion, I also quoted out a few pun-specific sign makers, and you guys discuss that at the next meeting.
I love that it has to be pun specific.
Yeah, right.
Like their specialty.
It's different enchantments.
Sign
And there's apparently a large enough demand.
Honestly, I think the rest of it is more just follow up with Andromeda of like questions that Val had for specific like research questions that she like. One of the things that we haven't really had a chance to do but has really been bothering Val is what's going on with that bone shard we found in the cave that Checkers picked up and licked, and like he seems still fine. So
was he always like this? We don't know. Maybe this is post bone shard Checkers,
right? Yeah. It's Val's like, is it post bone shard Checkers? Is this
and
normal
when was this
grung
again?
adolescence?
Both for me and the listener. I mean,
yes.
just for the listener.
So this is the bone shard that we found when we were on our first trip outside of Agmar.
Ooh, this is the... Oh, yeah.
To
got
find the Pious.
Yep.
Because the Pious and the stone were attacked by the smoke creature.
Yes.
The stone...
You found the magical net, etc.
Yes.
Yes.
So that cave contained a skeleton in a pool of liquid, and Checkers grabbed a shard of bone from it, licked it, has been Checkers. And
Got it.
that's one bit of research. There's like a lot of other threads that she asked Andromeda just to look into, knowing that Val would not have access to the library at that time, and I'm sure Andromeda enlisted a lot of other librarians as well, but...
I love the idea that Val's like, I'm going to be away from a library from 2 to 4 weeks, and I'm going to fucking die.
Yeah.
If you don't, if someone is not researching on my behalf. So as Burger's kind of going through this,
And Burger would have been the point of contact
Right.
for Andromeda.
right, and she gestures, she kind of moves all the some of the packages aside and the bits of mail, and there's a pile of books that has just like a little note from Andromeda saying, happy researching. But notably, one of the ones, since you start talking about it, Burga kind of thumbs through the stack and pulls a book. And she says, I'm glad you asked about this because this was very interesting. You may have to meet with some historians from the city about this because there is a chance that is a saint.
What?
That's agreed.
Yes. Val goes to grab the incredible stack of books and paperwork, and is now just like only saying in like a deep thought.
Yep.
And it's just like slowly grabbing this whole pile of books and paperwork to her chest. Is like, yes.
Does Burga know if you do or do not want help carrying books? Or are you just like, is it like Val technically can carry this? That's not really the question. It's like, does Val want or need help? Or is it just like, no, I am comforted by the weight of the pile?
I think Val is able to grab like most of it, but like she is just now so focused on that bit of information that like she kind of doesn't realize Burga's still there, and it's just like going and like grabbing all of it, and it's just like, oh, that's very, and like starts mumbling under her breath, and it's just like shuffling this giant pile in her arms to the desk of doing, and she's forgotten like some of it. It's like physically impossible to carry all of the things that Burga got for her from the library. So like I just assume Burga will just like gently push a pile
the last 4 books or whatever
of books and paperwork to her, and like Val got super focused on the research and things like that, and as Burga brings the last stack of books to the desk of doing, Val kind of snaps out of it a little bit, and it's like, oh, Burga, thank you so much. I think being at the desk of doing with Burga right there, it kind of clicks in Val's brain, and she remembers, oh, Burga, I actually got you something. Is there a package from Oswald and Otto's out of this world office supplies? This is where Steve comes in with the names.
No, I am very in love with that.
I liked it.
I'd like everyone please write that down. It'll be a plot hook later. And she's like, well, yeah, I think there were several packages of office supplies, but
I mean, I spent a lot of gold there.
to be honest.
They did give me a bulk discount on notebooks. So.
Just a standing order of every month. It's 15 fresh notebooks. And she goes back over to the table where you guys were meeting, again, the little breakfast nook.
Val will actually follow her out to her Burga's desk where a lot of the packages are.
There's just so much overflow.
Yeah. And like Burga's is like, the guild hall has like the entryway and then kind of like the front office where Burga's desk is, where she like greets everybody, and Val kind of looks for the right shaped package from Oswald and Otto's, or Otto and Oswald?
Oswald and Otto's.
Oswald and Otto's.
Jonathan's
Already
like,
forgot.
Out of this world.
Show-
Office supplies.
show some fucking respect
Excuse you.
to the most important shop in the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So Val finds the long square package and hands it over to Berga with like kind of like pent up excitement. I just thought, we had the vote of officially, you becoming guildmaster, and
Yeah.
it was a great dinner, and I thought there was like, you just needed like a little something more to make it official. And you can tell Val's nervous because like she's really excited about this gift, and like, oh, it's now suddenly dawning on her like maybe Berga won't like this, and like she's very nervous.
What if it's very lame?
Yeah, what if this is like not cool at all? Because Val thinks it's great, and like, oh god, but like Berga was an adventurer, and like now she's stuck in a desk job, and like, oh god, the panic that is setting in, and Miss Val just like slowly hands.
And in the
box to
Atheum,
Berga.
getting your own nameplate is like a graduation ceremony.
Yeah, it's a big deal,
big thing.
You have tenure at that point.
So she takes this kind of rectangular package and just kind of like turns it over a little bit and eventually rips it open with not a lot of effort. And it takes her a second to kind of turn it over and realize what it is, and reads the inscription that says Guildmaster Berga, basically. She looks at it and just holds it in her hand for a second, and then looks up at you and then has like tears in her eyes a little bit. And she just like gives a big sniff and then like hurls herself up and gives you a big hug and is just like laughing and crying and saying thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on for a second, and then you hear a soft pitter patter and flutter of wings. And then out of nowhere, Berga yells, "What are you doing? No, hey, that is mine!" As you see Taroth the imp just cackling with this new nameplate that you just gave. Then it just scrambles up the stairs away. And that is where we're listening.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Burnaway, a new TTRPG about making tough choices while the world burns down around you. Burnaway is a game about grief, hope, personal bonds, and relationships forged in literal fire. Set in a retro-punk world, players must stop the mournful and vindictive spirits called Embergeists by any means necessary. But be warned, the fallout of these fights will bond you closer to your allies or sink you deeper into despair. Each mission in Burnaway is a unique puzzle with many different solutions. Its unique mechanics make it easy to pick up, and its narrative-driven system makes it ideal for one-shots and short campaigns. Ultimately, the game's themes will help you reconsider what grief is, and how your relationship with grief can change for the better. The Kickstarter campaign for Burnaway starts on October 3rd, just in time for Halloween. Head on over to Kickstarter and pick up your copy of Burnaway today. Hello again, everyone. It's me, DM Nathan, and welcome to the Midroll. This is where we remind you to follow us on all the social medias, particularly on Twitter at @reckless_attack, where we are posting memes and behind the scenes things and all the best types of promos and nonsense. And if you are enjoying and want to support what we're doing, please consider supporting us over on Patreon. It is one of the best ways to help us improve the show and let us do cool new things. If you're interested in repping Reckless Attack out in the real, actual meat space world, please head over to Redbubble and TeePublic, which you can find through our website, where we have all kinds of awesome merch, stickers, t-shirts, maybe towels, and I think maybe even like a shower curtain, all kinds of stuff, and we update it very frequently, usually with the neatest, coolest new designs and pieces of art that we've commissioned. It is also a great way to help spread the word about Reckless Attack and get cool frogs on more of your possessions, which isn't that what we all want? That's all from me, and now, back to the episode.
As Taroth is scrambling away, I actually imagine there are a couple of fresh-faced recruits walking from the entrance of the guild hall towards the armory in the back. And as Taroth is fluttering, they're just like looking at it. It's just like, what is happening
Yeah, like
here?
a bat is loose in here. Yeah.
And I imagine this is like more a regular scene as the community exercises have been going on the last couple of like weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was starting to kind of kick up right as you guys were leaving,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. And
yeah.
Berga is multi-talented
Yeah.
and can lead some community
Yeah.
self-defense classes while you're gone.
I imagine too, like there are specific days that we have a lot more energy in the guild hall as people are shuffling in. And it's grown to this thing where there are even a couple of members in the guard that come in and teach like supplementary classes. And Nam shows up every now and then and like does some sword work, does some footwork. But today, Kaskrin is leading the lesson, as there are a number of recruits, some older, some are newer, but they're all standing around the giant circle that is the grappling pit of St. Thixius.
Yep. I say yes with no further intonation in my voice. Yes, they do. That is a canonical part of the Guildhall.
And so as the day wears on, Kaskrin is giving instructions on grappling techniques, and the arena itself is resetting itself magically after every match, after every bout. And there's a lot of like back and forth, a lot of energy and excitement as like, you know, this is a very physical sport. Like people are getting thrown to the ground and like learning real combat practical skills. And I do want to say that there is one person in particular who, like, Kaskrin is pretty good at this. You know, he's been training for decades at this point. But there is a half-orc that is, I want to say, like, 6'5", 7 foot tall, towering over him.
Classic, just giant hunk of mortality.
Yeah, giant, huge, muscular. And despite Kaskrin's skill, this half-orc, she's really giving him a run for his money. And I also want to say that one defining characteristic is that she is covered in tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
And so these two are kind of like Kaskrin, the rocky dwarf, and then this half-orc, tattooed, basically mountain of a woman are grappling at it as kind of like the showcase match at the end of the day, demonstrating to all these other new recruits. And so at the end of the day, you know, they shake hands, Kaskrin introduces himself, and learns that the other's competitor's name is Umbra.
It's all happening, worlds collide.
For those eagle-eared listeners may remember we've mentioned this before, Umbra was Sophie's previous character.
I'm bringing her in, baby.
I was going to say, and David's like, fuck all this canon. It's all one world. And I'm
let's be
not
real.
against it.
Let's be real. Umbra would flock to St. Thixius.
And let's be triple real that there was one person who did this already in that Nathan said that Pete of Pete's Meats was also canon
That's
from
true.
our last
Everybody
campaign.
gets one.
Yeah.
So right, exactly. Everyone gets one, and I am fine with this. So I have two questions.
Okay.
One of them is a real question. The other is a joke question. I'll ask the joke question first. Is Kaskrin shirtless during the wrestling?
Absolutely, and I almost made this grease wrestling, where everybody had to be oiled up to participate.
The second question that I had for you. It's really interesting to me that you guys just got back to the city. And it had been a rough 2 weeks, emotionally, physically, mentally. And it's really telling in ways that I'm not sure about how, but it's really telling to me that Kaskrin, you know, like 2-3 days from getting home, is willingly teaching of like a 3-hour long class where he is just getting thrown around for fun. So what like was there for Kaskrin, like was there doubt? Was he like, what if I pushed it back a day, or like, hey guys, I'm a guilder. You guys know that. I just came back. Can we maybe pick this up next week? Or did Kaskrin just like, no, this is what I do?
Yeah. So I think part of it is the community day was already scheduled.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, well, I guess I'm showing up now. But I will also say, I feel like this exercise was really like day 3 of getting back to Agmar, where he is using the physical activity as like, a way to de-stress.
Sure.
And helping others is helping him work through his own feelings. But I think the day after everything happened, he really spent some time walking around the city of Agmar.
Yeah, you're like first like full day back.
Yeah, the first full day back after drinking, after recovering, after everything, and just having time alone. He spent most of it just wandering around and like becoming familiar with the city again. Seeing the sights, hearing the sounds, and just like kind of grounding himself and really settling in with the events of the last couple weeks.
Yeah. Do you find yourself anywhere in particular in the city? Like, is either consciously or kind of subconsciously, like, is there a place that Kaskrin walks to, or is he just kind of like take everything in and then, just kind of float in the city, I guess?
I feel like at some point during the day, Kaskrin finds himself at a vantage point on the waveless lake, where he is overlooking the docks and seeing all these boats out there, and it's really reminding him of a scene he saw a lot in Lotros.
Yeah.
Of all the boats on the ocean, just like sailing by with the sun reflecting everything, and I think he spends the most time there lost in his thoughts and his feelings.
The waveless lake is always so interesting to me because it's so weird. Where for us as a reminder, and for the listener, that it is literally a waveless lake, in that the boats that are out there fishing leave no wakes, and the nets they throw in make no splash, and you could literally throw a rock in and it would just sink.
Right.
And that being a very strange, surreal thing that like people's brains like just like are like, that's not how real world works. But I can also imagine it being like an almost like soothing specific thing. Like once you're used to it and associate that with the feeling of home and safety and familiarity, that it's almost its own kind of like weird touchstone where the weirdness is comforting to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the surrealness, like the oddity of it, really helps put him in that meditative state, and he just like hangs out there for a while, like just like spends day 2 walking around, day 3
wrestling,
thrown down.
As you are walking back, Kaskrin, you've kind of sat, you've done your walk, and you come back towards, kind of in the direction of the guild hall, but going down kind of the main thoroughfare, the main street. As you do, you actually see a strange sight. Being hauled on a big cart, like a big wooden cart, is the head of a giant insect. Like, imagine like a, kind of rhinoceros beetle kind of thing, where it has this, kind of big, like, proboscis horn. And it's just like sitting there lightly oozing and being pulled by like a team of oxen. And you recognize the people kind of surrounding them being checked into the city, like you've been checked in multiple times, is the Verdant Wave Adventuring Guild. You see Trankar, the turtle wizard. You see Kavos Pyrelighter, the dragonborn. You see Barzug, the dwarf kind of reaver and berserker. And you see Yanis Varga, the commander of the Verdant Wave. You can see he is wearing different armor than he was. Like he previously had like, I think full plate or a half plate. But now you can see that it is actually like a shining, gleaming like red. Kind of, this is dumb. it's almost like Iron Man color, you know,
Yeah.
or like sensation wise, but like that's kind of the effect that it has. It really shimmers in the sun. None of the group really sees you. You're kind of way off in the distance, and you know you have group dinner to get back to.
Right.
But as you walk past, you think there's a flicker for a second. Rihanna's Varga, this elf, who you've known as is a great fighter and technically good commander, but someone who you don't necessarily see eye to eye with, seems like he catches a glimpse of you and just, you know, kind of there's that flash of recognition before he turns back to whatever attendant is helping him.
Gotcha.
Back at the guild hall, Checkers, what are you up to?
So, Val, as you are deep in your studies, as you're surrounded by all these books at the desk of doing, as you're hunched over all your notes, looking over all these papers.
Excuse me. The desk of doing has in canon lumbar support and posture correcting chair.
Yep, that is true.
It is a listed feature of the desk of doing.
You hear coming down the hallway, Checkers just kind of crying out, Val, where are you? Just with like this sense of urgency.
Checkers, what's wrong? I'm in here. What's up?
Val, you gotta see this.
See what?
And
I'm sure this is going to be very, very, very dangerous or pressing, for
Right.
sure. Yep.
He found the detonating cord.
Yeah.
You're right, exactly. It's like it could actually be like,
it works.
I found a thermonuclear warhead.
Could be
What should I
anything.
do?
And you see Checkers come in with Colaprico at his side, just tucked underneath his arm.
Somehow worse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Checkers comes rushing up to you. All right, Colaprico, tell her what you told me.
What happened, Colaprico? What's wrong?
And Colaprico just goes. And Checkers just responds it. And finally, Colaprico. And Checkers just like falls down on the ground laughing. Just, that was great, Colaprico.
I so him like, does Val Mylan Colaprico? No. Have Checkers have his own. Checkers, I don't speak chicken. What happened?
Val, to get to the other side, it's comedy gold.
God damn.
And just Checkers just like high fives Colaprico, and then just grabs him and runs off.
And then just scurries off with the
Okay,
chicken.
but here's my question. Is that comedy gold in the world of Brixia in D&D?
It just got invented. Yep, it is the hot new comedy craze sweeping the nation. It's actually very progressive comedy.
Chicken humor.
Yeah, exactly. It really kills down at Gary Carr's place for sure.
It's poultry in motion.
Yeah. Great.
Anything else, Checkers?
So the one other thing is slightly more serious, but not that serious. Later on during the week, as folks are kind of getting back to their rooms and putting away their things, they find two things on their desks. One is a little wooden carving, and it is immediately recognizable as the helmet of the fortunate in its perfect wooden glory. And Checkers just leaves a little note underneath it in crayon that says, "May this light your way." And anyone who looks at it would see it's a very good representation, but you can pop the helmet off, and underneath it is a wooden skull. And the skull has the spell Continuous Light cast on it, so it just has this big 20-foot radius light glowing from this tiny little wooden skull, and when you put the helmet back on, it turns the light off.
Oh,
And it's like attached to this keychain that you can put on your belt. So you just keep it around.
yeah.
I have
Wow.
I have a couple of questions.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was a Pez dispenser.
Damn it. Okay, lovely, first of all. Second of all, you said
Mm-hmm.
the Checkers left a note.
Yes.
Right. But you said left a note underneath it on the desk. Did Checkers use paper or did he just use crayon on the desk?
On the desk, for sure.
Okay.
Does not use parchment.
Yeah, okay, good.
Cannot comprehend what parchment is.
Right, yeah. I've
Right.
never seen it before.
Right,
no.
got it. I guess my other question is, do you have a sense of what drove Checker? Like, that's a very lovely thing for Checkers to
Yeah.
do. Like, And especially like Checkers is in charge of the fortunate. Like that was what he was, he's given a duty to do this thing. Does that hold any kind of like special anything for him? Or is Checkers just like purely reaction? Where it's just like, I had an idea to do this thing and I thought it would be nice, so I did it. Like how does Checkers like experience complex emotion? I guess the question, huh?
Right. I will say it has absolutely nothing to do with his responsibilities
Totally.
as the Bone Keeper. He's just like, I had this idea, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be very nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will also say, next to the wooden carving is a little sheet of paper with a drawing on it.
Never heard of a parchment
Never heard of
before.
parchment.
Ever
Never heard of
before.
He doesn't know what
right.
it is.
But this is a piece of paper.
But this is a piece of paper with a
Yep.
drawing on it. And it's the same drawing for everyone. And I will say this is a reference to our Level Up episode on Patreon. So if you want to find out more details about our Level Up, head on over to patreon.com/recklessattack to learn more.
A true professional.
Right.
Hell yeah.
But it just has the words, "Be right back, making friends." And it is a picture of Checkers with a picnic basket walking outside the city of Agmar with 3 strange creatures around him. One of them is a monkey that is like surfboarding on a kite up in the air. One of them is a big turtle with angry eyebrows and like a bunch of jagged rocks on its shell. And the last one is this like half mud puddle, half frog creature just kind of waiting around behind Checkers. And they're all just going off who knows where to have a good picnic.
And Checkers is gone.
And
presumably.
Checkers was never heard from again.
My new character.
Yeah.
Okay, but where is Checkers?
And that's where we'll end
Well, boy, David, if only I could. Because as the 3 remaining guilders and maybe Berga are all being like, so did anyone see where Checkers went? You guys, I'll say, get like a knock on the door. And it is a correspondence delivery person. Val, you would probably recognize the symbol on this. It is the symbol of the Library of Agmar. There's, I'd imagine, an awkward moment where everyone's like, wait, should we open this? Should we go look for Checkers? Is Checkers fine? What are we doing? Until Berga just like rips it open and opens it. They kind of spread it out onto Berga's kind of reception desk, newly minted with a fun new nameplate. And it's like an official document. It looks like, kind of in nice typeface, all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't have a lot on it. But what it says is application for permanent loan, parentheses S, close parentheses, to the, written in, Golden Tree Adventuring Guild, with a big stamp on it that says approved, with the list of the 5 books
Hey.
that
Nice.
you have requested to take from the collection of the restricted section. And folded in this, as you kind of like look at it and you kind of have that moment of like, oh, hey, cool, awesome. There is an extra little note that is signed by Andromeda that says, this isn't something that the council usually does, but because you are all members in good standing and have saved, I think, the city a few times now, they thought that you earned it. Andromeda. And that is where we'll end this week's episode, and we will see you all next week in the restricted section of the Agmar Public Library. Woo!
Okay, but where is Checkers?
We'll find out next week. Yay! Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Checkers is in the restricted section, so when you enter, you find it.
Y'all are planning the D&D campaign. I'm just like, so he's the Coriander King. What are all the spice sex puns that are in this novel?
No, that is maybe more playing the game of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, of what are the sex puns I can make out of this sort of serious title that my DM came up with is like, that's the game, baby. That's the spice. Okay.
You're the only one who's actually playing D&D.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, again,
Make nutmeg puns. Just saying.
my brain kept trying to come up with another one, and it just was like bay leaf, human. Like, I guess human's a good one,
Yeah.
but like all of them were like just the late. Like, there's nothing. This is
How do I fit garam masala?
right. Yeah, it's like I don't.
It's coriander
That's
lavender.
not a thing. That's not a thing. Okay.